is the Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thanks, Hall. Nice to see everyone. I'm Randy Hubble, CEO for Solaris Endovascular. We're a medical device company with a pipeline portfolio technology. We have a platform in which we have two advanced programs and others in R&D. This presentations are going to focus on the advanced because that's more relevant to valuation. We did just get breakthrough designation on one of our programs that is in phase 2, completed phase 2 development. So here's the summary of what we have. We've tried to de-risk this as much as possible for an early stage company. We have acquired the assets. Our first technology is already approved outside the United States. It is about $5 million of recurring revenue with Solaris SX, our self-expanding stent. The second product is a combination product. It takes the base platform for Solaris SX and puts a drug on the edges to finish the job, so to speak, and to go that last mile of where there are still challenges with our product and its competitors. Got strong interest from strategics as there's no other place they can get a self-expanding covered stent. I've done this multiple times, and we've been extremely capital efficient by the way we acquired the technology. So what do we treat? We treat the veins and arteries in the peripheral system, the arms and legs, everything but the heart and brain. For PAD, peripheral artery disease, it's the same atherosclerotic disease that's in the heart. It is throughout the entire body if you have it, and particularly when it's below the knee, that becomes very problematic and needs to be treated with a device that opens the vessel. Dialysis access patients have their arteries and veins tied together. That allows them to have dialysis where the blood's taken out through the artery and put through a dialysis machine. It's an artificial kidney, and then it pushes it back into the venous system at very high flow rates that damages those vessel walls. The venous system not used to taking high flow rate, turbulent, shear force type of flow. Here's what the product looks like. It's a self-expanding stent. Program number 1 is Solaris SX, approved in 45 countries. We've sold over 15,000 since the product launched. It's also got about $5 million of recurring revenue. Second product is the game changer. It's the breakthrough designation. It takes the first product and combines a drug. So this is a classic combination product. It is a PMA, which is the device approval process through CDRH. We are in phase 2 clinical studies, and we have breakthrough designation on that technology. Going back to the first product, it does compete in 45 countries. We use an independent distributor network that's, quite frankly, very fragmented. You get some good results, and you get some that are not so good. Where we do invest and have some good support, we are number 1, such as Turkey and Brazil. We have 3 competitors. We have Gore, Bard, which is now BD, and Merit. These 3 competitors have legacy stent for Gore and Bard, and then Rhapsody from Merit was approved recently. We compete very well with them because of a great combination of features and benefits that have a terrific radial force with the actual flexibility that you see with the stent tied in the knot. We have clinical data on this device, the Solaris SX without the drug. Great patency rates, patency meaning open, out to 12 months for the iliac, the artery in your groin. For dialysis patients at 6 months, it's about 75% patency after you repair a lesion. A lesion is going to be a stricture stenosis, a narrowing of that vessel. And with balloon angioplasty, which is still standard of care, but moving away from that quickly, about half the patients come back because that repair is not durable. The problem with covered stents, the reason why the patency rate's not higher than 75%, and it's true for us and the other 3 competitors, is because of edge restenosis. What you're looking at here is an expanded stent in the vessel. It is the nitinol mesh there. That black tube in the middle is contrast, showing that the vessel is flowing, the blood is flowing, and it's open. The white milky edges are the stenosis. That happens on the edge. The cells migrate from the edges. You also get turbulent flow as the blood exits the stent, and that turbulence shear force will force a stenosis. So that's the problem that needs to be solved, and that's what we have the solution for. We've taken a technology, sirolimus, which is a known anti-inflammatory, anti-proliferative drug, and we put it on the edges of our Solaris SX stent. That elutes over 60 days, but it affects, the treatment effect is for months and years later. So it turns off the process, and we do have results out to 12 months now, with our primary endpoint being 6 months. We have a phase 2 study, 115 patients. The interim analysis we presented publicly 3 times in the fall. As a reminder, when you treat a lesion with balloon angioplasty, it comes back at 6 months, with half of those, about half failed. When you look at the data for all the covered stents, ours, Gore's, Bard's, and Merit's, the combined data show about a 70 to 75% patency, and our drug-eluting stent has a 95% patency. So that is a substantial step up. We've seen this type of effect with sirolimus in the coronary stent. I was the launch leader for J&J 23 years ago when the first ever drug-eluting combination product came to market. Bare metal stents back then in the coronary had a rate of about 30% failure at 6 months. We were able to bring that down to 3% with sirolimus. The picture on the right is confirmatory that we're not seeing any scar tissue buildup on the edges. This is a 6-month picture. We now have exact same picture out to 12 months, which is consistent with our 12-month data that we're starting to see come in now that shows this is a very durable treatment. This is going to save the patient substantial redo procedures. It's going to save CMS, Medicare, substantial amount of money by not having to do additional procedures. These patients in dialysis get 3 to 6 procedures per year. This is a $1.5 billion SAM. It's growing to 3 when we launch this new technology. I set this company up for an exit. That's all I focus on these days. I know the multinationals. I've been on the buy side for J&J, Boston Scientific, IBM, and what they want is they want to have revenue at time equals 0. So when you get FDA approval, they want to put this in the bag of their reps. So this is set up as a tuck-in. And these are the 6 items that need to be true for them to get revenue at time equals 0. We're on a path for each one of these in 3 years to have the FDA approval, the compelling data, the patent issued, and the scalable manufacturing so that we can have a multinational acquire us and get the success of a high uptake curve on their revenue launch. There are reasons I believe, and we have validated that there is substantial interest, is because these endovascular companies spend millions of dollars every year on infrastructure for commercial. They have sales reps, doctors, clinical specialists calling on interventional radiologists and vascular surgeons. So even though we started with dialysis access, this is not a dialysis play. This is a vascular, endovascular play. And these companies do not have a covered stent. Bard, Gore, and Merit are not acquisition targets based off of their size and breadth. So we're the only ones where they can get a covered stent. For a drug-eluting covered stent, you add those 3 companies into this mix, Gore, Bard, and Merit, because they don't have a covered stent, and we do. We are engaged in discussions. So I've got a $5 million bridge round. It opened up at the end of last year, and I committed to folks we'd spend that money wisely and hit milestones. We have done that. We've hired FTEs. We got the breakthrough designation. Part 1 of our IDE has already been submitted to the FDA. These are all things that I committed to doing in the first half of this year with that bridge money. We are on a path to a very straightforward, efficient play here. We're looking at 1 pivotal study, 1 PMA approval, and an exit. To get through the clinical studies and fund that, we need a $25 million Series A. The exit's about $550 to $600 million with multiple valuation analysis to suggest that. We have a $50 million valuation cap. And for folks that get into this bridge round, the projections from Keiretsu Forum Northwest due diligence is a 10 to 12x return. Not going to spend a lot of time on the revenue projections. This is a very big market. So the revenue projections here go up dramatically when we launch our first product in the U.S., which is a drug-eluting stent. We will not bring the SX to the U.S. There's no need for it. We already have approval in 45 countries. So we'll get sales from SX OUS over the coming years in parallel while doing the clinical development for DE, drug-eluting. But when that launches, that changes everything. We'll exit, and this will be launched by a large multinational. I've got 13 years at J&J, 5 at Boston Scientific, 8 at IBM. I've done 6 startups. Cardiva Medical was acquired by Haemonetics for $500 million. Carmel, I took as a science project out of Carnegie Mellon over 7 years to a NASDAQ listing for $150 million. Dr. Marco Costa is an interventional cardiologist, MBA from MIT. He's run hospital systems before, and he's now the CEO of Cytech Medical, the company I acquired the technologies from, and also our chief medical and scientific officer. Ziv Haskell is an interventional radiologist, world-renowned, was part of the team that got the first coverage stent approved with BARD. And Peter Snyder is a prolific vascular surgeon and an inventor. So in summary, we have multiple types of investors. We have friends and family we have high net worth individuals, angel groups, family offices, and VC funds. So we got a real blend, and that's all intentional, as we are likely to have our equity round led by a large multinational. 8% interest, 3.3 of the 5 is closed. Our final close is on July 1st. Folks that invest this month will get a $45 million valuation cap as a discount, and then June 1st, the valuation cap goes back up to 50. Thank you, Hall.
Great presentation, Randy. Cortland, what are your questions?
Hi, Randy. Good to see you again. This is getting to be a small world. I guess my first question is, why did you go to Anvisa first, and how can I help you distribute globally?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Cortland. Anvisa is because Cytech Medical, the company we acquired the technology from, is a Brazilian company. They don't have any products in the US, and that's how Dr. Costa and I got started on this project in summer of 2024. He asked me as I was, in between gigs, how do we get his products in the US? And I looked at about 6 different products. I picked this platform technology, the covered stent, because I knew this could be a tuck-in in that it could lead to an exit. They're EBITDA positive, but not to the extent to finance a PMA. So I know I need to use other people's money. So I need to show a clear path to an exit in order to raise money. And so that's how we got here. And that's how we got to get to Anvisa with the clinical study, and it will be approved first in Brazil. As far as distributing this globally, to be quite frank with you, I'm hoping that Boston Scientific, Abbott, Terumo, or somebody like that puts it in the bag of their reps and distributes this, and we exit before we would get to become commercial.
Great. Okay. Thank you that. Andy, what questions did you have?
I've got no question. Randy's done a great job presenting. It's pretty clear to me, everything that I need to know.
Great.
Thank you, Andy.
Martin, did you have any questions on this?
Still not a hardware investor.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Well, I think that's the end of the questions we have right now. At this point, I'd like to go and ask the investors in the room, who would you like to follow up with? And then we have a presentation from Andy Forgassi about, the Tenacious founder, and we'll have him come introduce himself in just a moment and show us that. Looking forward to everybody's feedback on that presentation. Cortland, who would you like to follow up with?
Basically, I'd like to follow up with each one of them.
Okay. Well, from
Thanks,
down.
sir.
Andy, was there anybody you wanted to follow up with?
I've got connections to all of them, so I can reach out when I reach out. I know Pete and I have already chatted a little bit, and we'll do some more later.
All right. That sounds good. With that, we'll make the introductions afterwards. And with that, I'd like to introduce Andy Forgassi. The purpose of the presentation is to share what people have done with AI. I know Martin Tobias has also done some interesting things. I'd love to hear from him about what he's done after Andy, and then maybe have a more detailed presentation next time. But Andy, why don't you launch your slides and kick off when ready, and tell us more about what you're doing with AI in the world of startup investing and funding. Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Hall T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early-stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.